just been around a while, see a lot of friendly faces out here, I think. Laurel asked for me to give you a quick update on the new EOC 911 center project that the county and the city have been working on for quite a while. And Jim helped me start that. I mean, back in the day, I think. But I'm happy to say that I think we're getting somewhere. Monday afternoon, we are meeting with the city, meeting the county commissioners and the city council are getting together. We found a piece of property. We'll secure that property. The owners agreed to some excellent terms for us. We've done all our due diligence on the property, including all that SEPA and all those initial stuff that you have to do and fall past very well. We've done seismic studies on it, and it's really good ground. I was really surprised because I was worried. You got really good ground, are you going to get a good septic permit? Because it is in the county. But we did. We got both, so I was really happy about that. So we'll be meeting with the city and talking about some particulars about that. Hopefully the electeds can come together and we'll agree to buy the property jointly. And we're ready to go. We have an architect engineer online for the detailed drawing. Most of you have probably seen the conceptual plan that is, it is online. If you go to the county webpage and go under emergency management and go under plans, you'll see our conceptual plan right there. And it's changed a little bit, but the actual floor plan is about the same. It also includes the possible west side fire station for the city of Fort Angeles sometime in the future, but that's not in the cards right now. So right now we're just looking at a new emergency operations center and 911 center for PENCOM, so to dispatch our first responders throughout the country. So with that, we're looking pretty good. Yeah. Sure. I mean, really, the only departments that will be represented there will be the county's emergency management department and the city's PENCOM. They run the 911 center. It's called the PSAP, Public Safety Answer. And that's all the electronics. We wanted to be near the airport for the emergency management section for a number of reasons. Number one, that area is really solid ground. We kind of knew going in that we'd probably be pretty successful on that, that bedrock or whatever you call it, for having good stability if we get a major shake. And right, the people that do that sort of thing, the engineers said that it's really, really durable for that. But the other thing too is, if any of you may know, the William R. Fairchild Airport is a federal staging area for FEMA. If in fact we ever did have one of those Cascadia events, William Fairchild actually would be that staging point for a lot of material, not just for Clallam County, but for Island and Whatcom, and maybe down the coast for Grace Harbor. So being there and close to that logistics center, that's gonna be pretty interesting. And not only that, a shake like that is really going to damage a lot of our transportation routes. So it's going to be nice to have that in proximity to things like, all our shops around our industrial area, things like the county shop, the city works is there, highway work is there, Delaware out there, on and on I can go. So we'll be close to that heavy equipment. Finally, the fairgrounds are there too. And that would be very beneficial if we had to stage up, I don't know, even mass care, just make sure possible. I don't know. But all those things would be very close proximity and very doable for us to work. We do work with the hospital regularly. So as far as the construction is concerned, we haven't been talking there, but we work on a monthly basis. We have a Fort Angeles area meeting, which includes the hospital, where we talk about emergency planning just for the Fort Angeles area, and they are part and parcel of that.
Sure. What's the price tag on that, and will you have a racquetball court?
What's that emergency?
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have the final figures in yet, and of course, in this day and age, with all of us suffering from inflation, it's looking anywhere. that's what we do.
What would be the expected staffing level out there?
Well, it depends. Yeah, that's a good question. So, and when I say it depends, you know, on a regular day, probably not that many people. The emergency management staff is 2.5 people. I got 2, besides myself, I have 2 emergency management coordinators and half a person that I call my plant manager, who just kind of runs the show, and she does a really good job on helping our volunteers. A lot of it is run by volunteers, and we rely on those folks. Same with PennCom, you know, in shift work, I think they have more than 3 or 4 people on at a time. But at any time, should an emergency stand up, maybe even just a bad storm, let's not even think about cascading, but even a bad snowstorm or something like that, it could influentiate a number of people being there, because we're going to staff the whole emergency operations center with different branches of what we call the ICS, the Incident Command System. So we'll have a section that runs operations, we'll have one that runs planning, we'll have one that runs logistics and on. So that staff could go up to 30 or more, depending on the level of anybody else? Yeah, Jim.
Just a comment, and people may not realize this, but maybe 15 years ago, our planning for emergency management at the county and hadn't been updated in, oh shit, maybe 30 years. And it was really in shambles. And we owe an awful lot of thanks to Ron and his marshaling of people to put together. It's one of the best in the state. We've got a top-notch emergency planning document, and it's been tested a number of times with full scale. The state, you know, has lauded it, has held it up as an example for other counties to use. And I wanted to thank you for that.
I appreciate that, Jim, and I don't want to forget Jamie. Jamie was such a foundation for where we are today. I think many of you, Jamie, it was such a loss, and I tell you, I'm not just the person that lost, but it's not the institution of what emergency management, and then what happened. We go right into COVID. I mean, here we are, we're preparing for this massive earthquake and all these emergencies that's around that. And we got a worldwide pandemic. How do you deal with that? I mean, nobody knew. And but we had a good staff. Appreciate you, Jim. We have the policies in place, and you know, our operational command system that we do, where we've separated the counties and the county into 5 separate areas. Like, things are much different in Swin than they are in Clallam. And so the emergency is going to be responded to differently. So as a result, we kind of divide this plan into different sections throughout the county, and we plan specifically with those areas. And it's been very beneficial, and that's kind of what Jim's referring to. It's really helpful. Now, I don't want to take up any more of the important guys' time. I want to introduce Detective Cody Anderson. Cody came to us from Montana. He's been a law enforcement officer in Oregon too. Cody has been assigned to the OPNET task force. I was there a couple of years ago, like 30, but back in the day, and it was, I tell you, I really enjoyed my career every step of the way. I was talking to Cody this morning, and I think that's the highlight. Being a narcotics, there's a lot of fun. I'd like to introduce Cody to give you a presentation of where we're at with our narcotics investigations in pocket. Cody.
So I apologize, I'm not a gifted public speaker. I do have a slideshow that hopefully will help explain things, and I'll try to follow along here with it. Just to let you know a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Montana. I started with the Bozeman Police Department in 2004. While there, I was a field training officer. I was a canine handler. I was a member of the special response team. And I was there for 6 years. And then I moved down to Oregon, down to Clallam for a couple of years, where I was a patrol deputy down there. before I moved back home to Montana, and I worked for the county where I grew up, Judith Basin County, and I was there for 6 or 7 years. Before I moved over here, I started out here on the west end. It was about the perfect place for me. I've always wanted to be near the salt water, and when I got offered the job out here, my plan was to move out here and bring my motor home and live in that. And so for 3 years, I had beachfront property in Clallam Bay at the detachment office, which was about perfect. So I spent 3 years out on the west end as a deputy out there. I transferred into Port Angeles I was only here about 6 months, and then I moved over to OpNet January of last year. So I've been there about 15 months. OpNet is hopefully these are the questions that I will answer during this talk. I spent some time this week going through this presentation was put together by my sergeant. It's kind of geared towards other law enforcement agencies. There's some case law or some statutes and stuff at the end, but this works very well for everybody, I think. So if you go to the next one. So the mission of the Olympic Peninsula Narcotics Enforcement Team is to identify, interdict, dismantle, and prosecute mid to upper level drug violators and criminal organizations engaged in illicit gang activities that have a negative impact on our communities, thereby improving the quality of life in our area of responsibility. What that means is we're not going after the lower level users. We will usually approach them. The lower end users will work with them. We'll find a way to work with them, and they will help us work our way up the chain. We're going after the people, not the people that are using. We are going after the people that are bringing it in. We're going after the people that are selling it. Oftentimes, what we can do is we'll get one person on some charges. They will agree to work with us in exchange for a lighter sentence. We'll make sure they get into treatment, that sort of thing. They will work for us. They will go out. They will do controlled buys for us. And then at some point, we will then arrest the person that sold them the narcotics. Depending on how that goes, where they're placed at, whether or not they can give us somebody higher, we might work with them as well. Make sure that they're still held accountable for their crimes, but we can work our way back up the chain. We've worked cases that go all the way back to Mexico from here on the Olympic Peninsula.
It's getting old, stop calling.
You can go to the next slide. The OpNet is made up of multi-jurisdictional. Right now, there's 4 of us that are full-time. It used to be more. And hopefully someday we'll get back to that point. The Clallam County Sheriff's Office is the umbrella agency for OpNet. They supply the commander for years and years. We answered to the sheriff, Brian King, when he was the chief deputy. Now that he's a sheriff, we now answer to Amy Bundy. She's the new chief deputy. She's been in that capacity for a couple, 3 months. So she's still learning. We're still working with her so that she sees what we do, and I think she's going to be really great at it. The county also supplies one detective, which is myself, and the administrative assistant. This hasn't been updated. The county also supplies a part-time analyst who came on board last fall. We're hoping to get more hours for him. His hours are limited right now, and so we just get him onto something good and he's done. So we're hoping to bring him on full time. His job is to run names for us, part of our job is figuring out who's connected to who. Maybe social media, that is, I don't know if it's easier or more complicated than it used to be, because everybody's connected to everybody. But there's a lot of different tools that we use to try to figure out how people are connected to each other. And so that's what our analyst is for, is to follow those trails and figure out who all is part of this organization. The Port Angeles Police Department supplies the sergeant position. Josh Palace, he's been there. I think he said he's in his 4th year now. And he is probably the perfect person for the job. He is very, very smart. I don't know if I've yet to turn in a report that he has not written all over and take the back of the grammar. And I actually thought I had pretty good grammar, but apparently I do not. But he's also, he's very level-headed, and he's able to manage multiple different personalities and everybody going in different directions and get us all back together. The Esquimalt Police Department has a detective. US Border Patrol has 1 agent. Just got a new Border Patrol agent. Scott Rogers is our new Border Patrol agent. He actually has prior OpNet experience. A few years ago, he spent 2 or 3 years with OpNet. So getting him back up and running is pretty good. Homeland Security has 1 part-time agent. Jefferson County has a part-time agent, and Fort Townsend Police Department off that. We work with them a lot. A lot of our cases go over into Jefferson County. So we work very closely with them all the time. And then we can go to the next slide. The 4 full-time state commission OpNet members are cross-commissioned by the FBI to assist in federal drug and gang investigations. We've all been cross-commissioned with the FBI. We've been sworn in. Their backgrounds and their swearing in process is time-consuming, and it seems like we have to redo it every few months. I think I've done it 3 or 4 times already, and I've only done it every few months, but they keep swearing us in. But we work really closely with the FBI on a lot of things. They are a huge asset. Our local FBI agents are out of Poulsbo. They are a great group of people. They are very, very dedicated, and they are very, very smart. They know and can do things that I never thought possible, and they bring a lot of resources to the table. They're a bunch of great folks. So, and the cases that they run, like I said, some of them, OpNet has run cases in the past that go all the way back to Mexico. That's through the FBI. We can either take them a case, or they'll come to us with a case that has tentacles here in Clallam County. We'll work it together, and then, you know, they'll work it all the way back. To the actual cartels. I guess we'll go to the next slide. Again, we work real close. The other agencies we work with, DEA, they're out of Tacoma. They have a bunch of good folks down there. We work more consistently with the FBI just because I think they're closer. And they made the mistake of giving us all their personal cell phone numbers. So, so we can just reach right out to them, and they'll answer whatever we got. DEA, ATF, US Marshals, Postal Inspection Service. There is a postal inspection officer in Kitsap County. We work with them a lot. A lot of the drugs these days are sent through the mail, especially with the Department of Corrections, the prisons. Right now, they are flooded with contraband being mailed into the prison. There's a lot of controlled substances that are being mailed in. And so we work with the Postal Service on those to try to intercept those packages once they're identified. So we also work with rediscovery. Like I said, the people that we work with, one of the things that we do is we make sure that they get hooked in with services. So, I mean, our job is to get the dealers we're trying to bring this, that are trying to bring in and profit from the poison that they're bringing in, the people that we work with. We make sure that they have services because our goal is to also get them clean. The new drugs are very, very hard to get off of. There's some bad stuff, but we'll go into that here in just a second. We can go to the next. So how we start a case, oftentimes a patrol officer will deal with someone, they'll arrest somebody for, vehicle prowl, and they'll find a bunch of blues, fentanyl in their pocket, meth. They'll start talking to them. The person maybe has been in this life a long time. They're looking to get clean. They'll want to talk to us. They'll ask the patrol officer, or the patrol officer will ask them, do you want to talk to OpNet? We'll go in and interview them, even if it doesn't work out that they're somebody that we can use to help us work our way up the chain. They're a great source of information. We have information coming from all over, and again, that's like our analysts. We're doing that. We're trying to figure out who's connected to who, who's working for who, who's supplying who, and it's a big web. Our partner agency, Citizen Tips. When someone calls in the tip line, those often come to us at OpNet. Oftentimes, people won't hear back from us like they probably should, but again, we're very short-staffed. But I can guarantee that those tips go into a file, and we use that. There's been a lot of citizen tips that I've used in search warrants just to add into it. Say on this date, we got a tip from a concerned citizen who wished to remain anonymous, that there was a lot of short stay traffic at 123 Main Street. That increases our probable cause that bolsters our probable cause of everything else we know when we're trying to get search warrants. All that's documented, all that's put in your case file, and then we'll bring that out when we need it. Confidential informants, confidential sources, and personal observations. We're always out and about. We're always looking, like we got guys that are walking down the street. We know who's on stuff. We know who a lot of the dealers are here, so we'll see them all over the place. So go to the next one. Again, I think I'm kind of getting ahead of myself on some of these. Most commonly, we do use confidential informants to conduct controlled buys. A lot of the cases that you hear about in the press releases, those are as a result of a confidential informant. That person will go out. My wife, she rolls her eyes at me because she asked me how my day was, and I'm like, oh, I bought a bunch of dope today. But that's what we do. We go out with the confidential informant. We control that buy. We do everything we can to make sure that confidential informant is safe. They come back. They give us the controlled substance. We document that, and then oftentimes we will have to file that away for a while because we don't want to burn our confidential informants. So a lot of the cases you hear about somebody being arrested, that might have been from 3, 4, 6 months ago, because we don't want to put our confidential informant at risk. Because by that point, honestly, that the dealer has sold to so many people by that point, they cannot remember who they sold to 6 months ago. We have a new prosecutor assigned to OpNet, Michelle Devlin. She is the chief criminal prosecutor. And one of the things we're hearing is they can't understand why all of a sudden they're getting hammered, because she goes after them. She is great. She is getting some really good sentences for us. And most of them are dealing out. they're taking a deal, to avoid trial. But they're still getting significant amount of time in prison. So, let's see, we'll go to the next one. These are some of the things that we do with OpNet. We assist a lot of different agencies. Phone consultation, oftentimes, our phone will ring at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a patrol officer saying, this is what I got. What should I do? And we'll try to walk them through that. Not that we always know, but we can at least give them a direction. Yesterday, unfortunately, we had another overdose in Port Angeles. And I spoke with the Port Angeles police officers on that. They told me what they had and told me what they were going to do. And then at some point, I'll meet with them and we'll go over everything. There is a law in the state of Washington called controlled substance homicide. That means that whoever sold the person the dope that they overdosed on is then guilty of homicide. I will say they are very, very difficult cases. And they are very, very time consuming. So a lot of them we look at and we figure out, where's this one going to go? So we can either focus really hard on this one, or what needs to be done on this one and this one and this one. They are very time consuming. There's a lot of search warrants involved. And if they're going to go anywhere, we've got to get cooperation from people telling us stuff. That's probably the biggest hurdle in those. We do covert surveillance. That is, when you watch police shows, that's a lot of what you see is the surveillance. That is a lot of fun. It's also very, very nerve-wracking because you're trying not to get burned. And they are watching for us. They know who we are around here. They know a lot of our vehicles. And so it's a game of cat and mouse between everybody. Wire order operations, that is in the state of Washington to report controlled by, we have to get a court order to do so. It's very similar to a search warrant. That's one thing about this job. There is a lot of typing, but we get to do the fun stuff too. Expert testimony. I don't know who decided that we were experts, but they did decide that we were experts, and so there's some new case law coming down for drug cases, and it sounds like we're going to get called to court a lot more to testify as to the drug culture in Clallam County. Tactical planning, tactical operations. We just all attended SWAT training in February over in Idaho. The sheriff's office is working on getting an armored vehicle, which is I think that's one of the things that most people are excited about. Unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of standoffs recently, and we've been using Jefferson County's or WSB SWAT. They take a long time to get here. And so having one of our own is going to be because I've been on the receiving end of bad stuff coming from houses from both inside and outside the armored vehicle. And let me tell you, it's a lot more fun than the inside armored vehicle. But we are working with Jefferson County SWAT team right now, or officer. We're training with them while we're in the process of getting the local jurisdictional team going. Go ahead and go to more. We'll skip the questions for a second. Go to the next one. So these are the drugs that we see, unfortunately, here on the Olympic Peninsula. Fentanyl is the top one. It's what we see everywhere. It is in everything. Even our methamphetamine has fentanyl in it, which is kind of counterintuitive because they're on opposite ends. But for some reason, heroin is definitely on the downhill slide here. It's been a while since we've actually even seized it. We did actually seize a little bit in a case in December. And we were all surprised because it's all been replaced by that. And that's unfortunately, Clallam County leads the state in per capita drug overdoses, and it's fentanyl. It's all fentanyl. It's everywhere. It is also, it's scary stuff. We're seeing it in strange forms. If you'll see on TV or on the news about the different colors, we call them blues. They're called blues. They're the little tiny blue pills. They're very, very small. Unfortunately, you never know what's in it. That's why we're seeing these overdoses, because it's essentially mixed in somebody's blender in their basement, and they take the fentanyl, they pour it in, they pour their mixer in, and then they press it into pills. Well, they don't do very well with it. So some of the pills, they get a hot pill, and it has a fatal dose in it, and it is a tiny amount that is needed for a fatal dose. And then other ones might not have any of it. So cocaine, we are still seeing some of that. Marijuana, we'll talk about that here a little bit. We do still deal with marijuana. There's been several large cases here in the last couple of years from foreign national drug trafficking organizations that had very large marijuana growing enterprises here. It's like,
You don't want to walk through.
yeah. Prescription pills, patches, that's called diversion. That's when pharmacies get the pills, or they're coming to them and they're diverted someplace that they're not supposed to, either through the mail or somewhere else. So we'll go to the next slide. This picture here, the top one with the penny, that is a fatal dose of fentanyl. Well, it's a tiny amount, and so when it's mixed up, if it's not mixed up well and right, that could kill someone. And it is everywhere. Last year we seized 17,386 blues, little tiny pills. And the FBI just did some raids in the Sound that we helped out with. They were getting, I believe they got hundreds of thousands of pills out of that organization. And it's everywhere. It's really scary stuff. It's also coming in new forms. They call them rainbow Skittles. They're changing the color on them. They're bright in color. They're not blue anymore. I don't know if we're going to still call them blues or what we're going to call them, but they're coming in different colors. If you've seen about sidewalk chalk, sidewalk chalk is here. Rainbow Skittles are here. Betty powder is what they call it, which is fentanyl powder. It is here as well. It's all over. It's kind of scary stuff. It is often mixed with other illicit drugs, heroin, methamphetamine. A lot of people, we've been getting, they don't do fentanyl, they do methamphetamine, and they will go for treatment or something, and they will have fentanyl in their system, and they don't know how it got there. It's because it's in everything. A lot of them are getting strips now to test their methamphetamine to make sure that it does not have fentanyl in it. But it does. It all does. And we'll go to the next slide. Smoke injected, orally in pill, that's not really, most of it's smoke. They smoke it off of tinfoil. You'll see the streaks. You see tinfoil out and it's got dark streaks on it, that they use that to smoke that all. I think I'm running out of time, so I'll try to speed up here. Methamphetamine will go 2 or 3 forward. There we go. Oh, maybe one more. Oh, no, that's the one. Methamphetamine, we are still seeing a lot of methamphetamine. I think that's the. You've got two ends, you've got the methamphetamine, you've got the fentanyl, users. But they are very intermingled because it just has it all. The next slide shows what goes into methamphetamine. This is heat, acetone, denatured alcohol. That's what it's made out of. That's what they're putting in. That's why, we'll go forward a couple of slides. That's how it's going. This is a depiction of a user of methamphetamine, and the progression from age 23 to 25. The chemicals in their body, have their teeth go to the sores. They also grind their teeth down because they're so picked up. A lot of the rest of this is about heroin, which we're not really seeing a lot of. The marijuana, there have been two major, we work with, it's not MET anymore. What did they change the name to? Yeah, it was called MET. It was Marijuana Eradication Team. The state of Washington doesn't like the term marijuana. And I'm not sure why, but they changed it. So it's something, their team is somewhere else, something else. They're essentially, I've always thought of them as like the revenuers from the back in Prohibition. Because marijuana is legal, but they're going after the illegal growers of it. And what they do is I think there was 14 houses or spots here around Port Angeles that they were growing marijuana, they were packaging it up, and they were shipping it back. And they were making huge amounts of money from that. They got shut down. Another one started up. They just came in November, I think it was November, and they did it again and they shut down a bunch of them. So that's actually what's paying for our armored vehicle is one of the properties that we seized in that we're selling it and it's buying our armored vehicle so that we can go get more of them. So, and the grows people, a lot of people aren't worried about growth. The problem is the illegal grows, they do not care about their neighbors. They do not care about the environment. There's a lot of chemicals that are still used in these, and the houses that these grows are in are the chemicals that go into this. So the illegal grows are still very, very bad for the community just because of all that stuff that goes in. That is, I will open it up to questions now, just because the other stuff is live. I'll give you some numbers from last year. Last year we seized 277 grams of heroin worth a little over $11,000. We seized almost 6,000 grams of methamphetamine worth almost $120,000. The fentanyl pills, 17,386, worth $87,000. Fentanyl powder, 323 grams worth $3,200. Cocaine, we are still seeing some cocaine. We got a little bit, 22 grams, $902. The marijuana, we got 219 pounds plus almost 8,000 live plants with $8.1 million on the street. So that was our last year. Things are changing. But the fentanyl it's really scary stuff. Yes.
So I would imagine there's still large amounts coming in off the coast or up 101. Is that how you're dealing a lot with Jefferson County? Because I mean, that's what
it's all connected. The Blake decision has led to huge ramifications for law enforcement, making the possession of narcotics was decriminalized. And we call it a third of a misdemeanor. The third time they're caught with it, it can be a misdemeanor. A lot of areas shut down their drug task forces. Kitsap County shut theirs down completely. We are actually seeing a lot of our dealers here, they go to Kitsap County and pick up. And so they're coming, it's still coming up the coast. It's still any way you can think of that you can bring something into the country and to here. There's a lot of different layers of agencies, they pick up a lot of it, but we're just reflected. The cost of the blues, when I started on OpNet, one of the little blue bills was $10 a bill. It's down to about $3 a bill.
Disappointed in.
Yeah, that's worth flooded. The Blake decision has changed the outlook of the entire state, and it's scary, but we're figuring out how to work with what we got, and I think we're still making a good dent. And we hear things. OpNet has been going on for a long time now, and the reputation is they're always looking over their shoulders, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep their heads down and make them scared of us. We're the guys that are down.
Other questions?
When you arrest someone, get them, welcome them to jail, how fast do they get out?
That's not up to us. Unfortunately, they get out sometimes they get out quickly and sometimes they don't. It depends on what the charge is. And then if the judges, what they want to do with bail, there's so many variables. If it was up to us, they would sit there until trial, but unfortunately, it's not up to us.
So do a lot just get out in hours next day?
Well, if they can come up with bail, there's a bail set. If they can come up with bail, then they can get out. If it's a felony, they have to see the judge before they can get bail. So they're at least in there until they can see the judge, and the judge decides what their bail is. So, other questions?
What you've described is sort of the ugly underbelly of the community, it seems like. So this is maybe an off-the-wall question. What's the most satisfying part about your job?
It is the gotcha moment. When I know that they're gonna go to prison, but they don't know yet. They don't even know that I know. That's the best part, is when I know I've got them, I'm gonna send them to prison. But they have no idea that I even know who they are yet, so.
How do you feel for those for this?
We haven't been involved with it. I don't even know with the new laws. I don't even know how it works. I know that they took away a lot of their clientele. I think it could be very successful. Unfortunately, we've got to have leverage over people. So, when we talk to the users of controlled substances, a lot of times they don't want treatment until they rock bottom. And unfortunately, oftentimes that is their boss. That is their rock bottom, and that is their finally the last straw before the treatment. Without late decision, that we're not able to have that leverage. So, hopefully it'll change. Those decisions are made way above my pay grade. We just work with what we got and do what we can. And the OpNet, I've never seen an organization that when there's multiple law enforcement agencies involved, there's conflict and everybody's kind of, well, my agency is this, OpNet is, it's just worthwhile. Because our main goal is we don't care who gets the credit, we just want to bad guys. Yeah.
Well, Cody, thanks a million.